Hey you guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back, I'm not going anywhere. Beast! Peekaboo, I see you because I'm YouTube famous now. Available summer 2023, my birthday, the album, Dad, Shimmy Shimmy, AF, the birthday edition. Na 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 na, you say it's your birthday. Na 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 na, it's my birthday too, yeah. Beast. Yeah, it's my birthday. Today is my birthday. Well, actually, it is Tuesday afternoon when I am filming this video. And we just got done filming our couples video, which is going to be posted on Wednesday. This video that I'm filming, I'm going to post on Thursday for my birthday. I just kind of wanted to enjoy the next couple days, and so I'm pre-filming some videos. But I really felt compelled to do this video for my birthday. This is really more for me to have as a memory, more than anybody else. But I really hope that there is at least one person out there that gets something from this video, that hears something that I have to say, that this impacts you in some kind of way. And yes, this is going to be kind of an emotional video. So for those of you that don't know, today, June 29th, 2023, I am turning 51 years old. And honestly, I never thought I'd be here. It's so surreal to me to be turning 51. And, you know, I thought 50 would be the year that, like, really hit me hard. But it's kind of like 51 is, as it's been, like, coming up, you know, and getting closer and closer to the date, it's like, God, you're going to be 51. Like, you're in your 50s. And I have to tell you a little story about my 30s because it reminds me of when I turned 30 and 31. So when I turned 30, I felt very similar to this. You know, I got sober when I was 22 and a half. And so, you know, went back to college, graduated later than everybody else, got my master's degree later than everybody else. I kind of started everything late, you know? And so I always felt like I was behind everybody else, if that makes sense. And so when I turned 30, I had friends of mine that, you know, had already for several years been living in, you know, gorgeous homes and traveling all over the world and, you know, had nice cars and, you know, had already started having kids and building families and things like that. And that was not my life, you know? And so when I turned 30, I started comparing myself to a lot of people around me. I later had a friend of mine that said to me, you always lose by comparison. When you compare your life to somebody else, you always lose, and that each person's life is their own journey, and you should be proud of that. And today I know that to be true. You know, I know that each experience that I've had and everything that I've gone through in my life, the good, the bad, you know, the in between, has all been for my own education, my own experience, and my own life journey, you know, and that you really can't compare that to anybody else. Coming up on 30, I felt very weird. Like, I can't believe you're going to be 30. You're in your 30s, like your 20s are over. Like, you know, I think, you know, when I was turning like 18, I was like, oh God, like 30 seemed like so far away. And I can remember my friends and I talking about like Marilyn Monroe having passed away when she was like 36, I believe. And here I am, like, you know, inching towards 36. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe that, you know, I'm in my 30s almost. But like 30 came and went, and it didn't really bother me a whole lot. In fact, I didn't really feel that impacted by being 30. And I've actually shared this with quite a few people that have gotten cameos from me turning 30. I've shared this story with them in cameos. So for some people out there, you've heard the story already. But I turned 31, and I can't remember if it was like the day I turned 31 or like a couple days after that or whatever. But when I was growing up, my mom and I used to watch this television show, and it was called 30-something. And it was a fantastic show, and it was about several different couples, and these two guys like owned this advertising agency together, and you know, like they had the house with the white picket fence, and you know, they had, you know, 2.5 kids, and you know, marriages and marriage problems and all that kind of stuff, right? And I can remember like at 31 thinking about this and being like, okay, you're like in your 30s now, like whatever, but like not really thinking much about it. And then I was standing in a gas station, and there was like this guy in front of me that looked a lot like one of the guys from the show. And for some reason, it was right around the time that I turned 31. And for some reason, I was like looking at this guy, and I was like, oh my God, I was like 30 something. And I was like, you are literally 30 something now, right? Like you are in your 30s, like there's no going back, and you don't have a house, you don't have an advertising agency. Here I am comparing myself to a television show that's, you know, complete fiction, right? And I have done that so much of my life where I always kind of compared myself to other people and felt like, you know, they're doing this or they're doing that or whatever, you know. And what I have learned, one of the greatest lessons I've learned, like my friend taught me, who was much younger than me, is we always lose by comparison. When we compare ourselves to other people, we constantly lose out because we do not see the specialness that is inside of us, right? We don't see those things that make us so unique and different and special and, you know, ourselves to the rest of the world, right? So I'm coming up on 51, you know, turned 50 last year, and really, like, I've enjoyed my 50s so far. You know, it's like, I don't know, like, other than having gotten sick in April and things like that, and, you know, having my doctors, you know, recommend, you know, colonoscopies and, you know, all this kind of, the fun medical stuff that goes along with turning 50 and all the stuff that gets recommended to you, which, you know, those things have been recommended to me for the last couple of years, but more so once you turn 50. Other than all that fun stuff, like my 50s so far have been pretty good. Like I've enjoyed being 50. And so I remembered this thing from, you know, turning 30 and then turning 31 and being like, oh hell, you're like in your 30s, right? Which is so interesting to me. And I don't know where I got this. Like I kind of like my 20s just kind of slid by, you know, like I said, I got sober at 22 and a half. I got into a relationship at 23 and a half, my first like major relationship. We were together for 4.5, almost 5 years. And then I got into another relationship right after that, you know, for 6.5 years. So like my 20s went by rather quickly, and, you know, I was building a career, I was getting my master's degree, I was staying sober, I was going to a lot of meetings, I was like really working on myself, you know, at that point, really trying to some degree catch up, I guess, is how I felt. So my 20s kind of went by, but my 30s and my 40s, like, I really enjoyed. I, you know, learned to slow down and be present, and actually that is something I've really been working on lately, is just to stay present and really enjoy the moment. And I wouldn't say that I've mastered that yet by any means, but I'm definitely much better at it than I was, you know, 10 to 20 years ago. So I'm coming up on 51, right? And I've been thinking a lot about this 30-31 thing, and how 30 didn't really bother me, but 31 really bothered me because I was like in my 30s at that point, right? Like I wasn't just 30, I wasn't just dirty 30, like I was in my 30s. And now I'm not gonna just be 50, I'm gonna be like in my 50s, right? Because I'm gonna be 51. So I was thinking about it, and I don't know why this fact escaped me. Like, I mean, it's something that I know, it's something I talk to people about all the time, it's something I'm very aware of, it's, you know, whatever. But my mom got sober at 51. She actually got sober at 51 and a half. And her sobriety birthday is June 2nd. And so she was about, at that point, like 51 years old in like 7 months. And so I've been thinking a lot about my mom. Like, it's kind of surreal to me. And it was so weird because today I was laying on the beach and I was like shuffling through my iTunes, and like some of my mom's favorite songs came on, like Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's, the original by Henry Mancini, came on, Blowing in the Wind by Bob Dylan, but it wasn't just the Bob Dylan version, it was the Concert for Bangladesh, which was like one of her favorite concerts of life. She used to listen to the records like when I was growing up as a kid, you know, and on and on and on. And so I've been thinking a lot about my mom lately, and thinking about that my mom got sober at 51. And the one thing I want to say is this, you know, don't ever give up hope on people getting sober or making profound changes in their life. My mom did not get sober until she was 51, you know. My mom had me when I was, you know, when she was 28. So at that point she got sober a year after I got sober. So I would have been almost 20, turning 23, because she got sober June 2nd and my birthday was June 29th. So I would have been turning 23 the same month that she got sober. The greatest gift my mother ever gave me, period, other than my life, was her sobriety. And, you know, I'm so grateful today that, I mean, and was then, that my mom got sober. My mom, you know, she was sober for a month short of 13 years. We spoke the language of recovery. We had amazing, wonderful talks with each other. We were able to appreciate things in a completely different way than we ever were able to before. Really appreciate things and really look at things. And I'm just so grateful for that, and that was something that I wanted my entire childhood. I don't know that I conceptualized the idea that I wanted my mom to get sober, because I don't know that at a young age I knew what that meant. But I know that my mom's drinking, and she was never violent with me or anything like that, but I was scared of her drinking. Like, I was scared that I was always very scared that my mom would die as a result of her drinking, that she would fall down or she would hurt herself or she just wouldn't wake up, and that was my biggest fear. And in fact, Alex and I were talking about this last night at dinner. I can remember, and I've talked about this on my vlog a lot, I can remember like being with my dad after my parents got separated, and calling my mom, and my mom being intoxicated, and then the next day her calling me and saying, like, Mom feels so bad, like, I'm so sorry, like, I shouldn't have been drinking, and I talked about this in a video that I did not too long ago over here as well, but saying, I think maybe it was on my Peterson's channel, I don't know, but she would say, I feel so horrible about this, blah blah blah, whatever, and I want to make changes and whatever, but there was no fruition to it, I would love to tell you that my mom got sober because of me. I would love to tell you that, well, I don't know that I think it really even matters today, but there's a part of me which is that my sobriety would have had such an impact on my mother, that me getting sober really impacted her getting sober, but that's not the truth. The truth is that my uncle, my Aunt Kathy's husband, Caroline's dad, Dave, my Uncle Dave, had a massive heart attack. And this was 2 weeks before Caroline was, 2.5 weeks before Caroline was getting married. And in June, it was at the end of May, I think, and had to have quadruple bypass surgery. And the rest of his life was a long-term heart patient. As a result of that, because my mom was so close to my Uncle Dave, what she decided was, whether she lived another year, another 5 years, another 10 years, or whatever, she wanted the quality of her life to improve. She wanted to live the best life she could possibly live. And so she decided to get sober. And so it really had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with how bad her drinking had gotten, which it had gotten really, really bad at that point. It had to do with the fact that she wanted to improve the quality of her life. No matter how much time she had left on this planet, she wanted to enjoy her life as much as she possibly could. And I think about that. I think about, the fact that this one thing that she did, how greatly it impacted my life, my relationship with my mom, her relationship with so many people. My mom passed away in 2008 from an autoimmune disease that kind of came out of nowhere. There was nothing that was ever left unsaid between she and I. We had very lengthy, deep conversations. Everything I ever needed to say to her, I said. Everything that she ever needed to say to me, she said. I feel like, even though she died at 64 at such a young age, that our life was complete together. And I feel very blessed for that. And I can tell you one thing I know for certain, that would never be the case had my mom not gotten sober when she did, or had I not gotten sober when I did. That would never have been the case, And so I'm so grateful for her sobriety. I'm so, so incredibly grateful. But as I turn 51, I've been thinking a lot about my mom, because that was a pivotal year for my mom. My mom got sober at 51. And when my mom got sober at 51, today I have friends of mine that are getting sober in their 60s and in their 70s. I know people in the rooms of recovery all over the place that are 65, 70 and coming in and getting sober for the first time, right? But at the time that my mom got sober, that wasn't really the case. There weren't a lot of 50-year-olds that were coming in and getting sober. And, it really took a lot of courage for her to walk through the doors, which she was very, very scared of, and to get sober at that age and to make all these huge changes in her life. When I tell you that those last 12 years and 11 months in my mom's life were the best years of her entire life, if she were sitting right here, what she would say is, I had peace of mind, I had happiness for the first time in my life. I didn't care. I've told the story millions of times in my vlog. I'm not going to get into the whole lengthy story of it, but when my mom was growing up, my mom developed very, very young and was big-breasted, and it was something that she hated her entire life. Her dream was to have a breast reduction. And when she was in middle school, there were boys that were looking inside her window when she was changing, and her stepdad called the police. So when the police came, they said to my mom, do you wear tight clothes to school? This was in the late 50s. They said, do you wear tight clothes to school to entice the boys? My mom, the rest of her life, wore a lot of turtlenecks, wore a lot of like baggy clothes to cover up her breasts because she was so ashamed and embarrassed of her breasts. I'm only sharing this story because when she got sober, she started wearing a lot of V-neck t-shirts. She started wearing a lot of shirts that were like unbuttoned, you know, not all the way down here, but you know, comfortably for her. She started wearing clothes that spoke of her soul, clothes that made her happy. And what she would say is, if somebody wants to look at my breasts, look at my breasts, look at my cleavage, I don't really care. She's like, I'm done caring. She stopped caring what people thought about her, and she started living an authentic life. She started living a life, she started dancing to the beat of her own drum, you know? She started living a life that made her happy. Does that mean that she was happy every moment of her life, the last 12 years and 11 months? No, absolutely not. And the reason I say that is because my mother was such a proponent of the basic text of recovery and the steps and things like that. And one of the things is that we don't borrow time in recovery. And in fact, her sponsor at her funeral came up to me and said, do you want her 13-year token to put in her coffin with her? And I said, I really, really appreciate it, but my mom, if she were here, would say we don't borrow time in the program. If you have 12 years and 11 months, you have 12 years and 11 months, you don't have 13 years. We don't borrow time in the program. You should be proud of what you have, you know? And if my mom were here, she would say she was incredibly proud of that time that she had, and she worked very, very hard for it. And she also fought very hard for the relationships and the people in her life, you know? And I'm so grateful for that today. I'm so grateful. And I think to myself, my mom's life really began at 51 to some degree, you know? She was muted before that. She was so completely muted by all the alcohol that she was drinking on a regular basis. She was so muted that she wasn't living an existence that made her happy. She wasn't living in a way that spoke of her soul, you know? And it was so funny because today I was listening to some of that music that my mom used to listen to when I was growing up. And I can remember as I got older, my mom used to, she loved the band Garbage with Shirley Manson, and she loved Janet Jackson. And she would ask me to make her like tapes of like mixes of Janet Jackson and things like that. And I'd say, you don't really listen to like Bob Dylan and Judy Collins and all these people anymore. She's like, you know, Joan Baez and Joni Mitchell. And she'd say, no, she was like, they kind of make me sad, honestly. Like when I look back on my life, like they remind me of periods of my life where I like sat in the library, because we a library in our house, where I sat in the library and I just like drank and listened to this music with my, you know, the earphones on, and she would say, like, I want to listen to music that makes me happy. She loved reggae music. She would walk Bob Marley, you know, Pete Tosh, all those people. She loved listening to reggae music, and just she wanted to listen to music that made her happy. And what I know is that those last years of my mother's life, when she was sober, she was happy, and she lived by her terms, and she lived by her rules. Where I can remember growing up, we would drive down our street and my mom would turn her music down because she would say, I have to turn my music down because the neighbors don't like it, blah, blah, blah. She didn't do that the rest of her life, you know. When she got sober, she blasted her music till she pulled in her driveway. She did not care. And so I look at that, and I look at that lesson that I've learned from my mom, that no matter what age you're at, you know, it's like, I love that poem that it's called, and my mom loved the poem too. It's called something to the effect of, when I'm an old lady, I will wear purple. You know, I think that life just gets better with age. And I think about the fact that I am turning the same age that my mom was when she got sober, and it's surreal to me, you know? My mom would have just turned 28 years sober this last beginning of this month of June, you know? And I think about that, like, it's crazy to me that I'm sitting here and I'm 28 and a half years sober, you know? And everything that I have in my life today is a result of my sobriety. And so much of that was because of my mother, because in all honesty, I don't know that I would be here today if my mother hadn't gotten sober on my heels for whatever reason, whatever brought her in the door, whether it had anything to do with me, which it didn't, or if it was because of my uncle, or because she was sick and tired of being sick and tired. She got sober. And I think it gave me so much hope, you know, and now I look at that and I think, my mom started really living at 51. And if she started living at 51, if at 51 she started having the best times of her life and dancing in the kitchen and walking to Janet Jackson and reggae music, you know, and laughing with her friends and wearing whatever clothes she wanted to wear and feeling for the first time in her life really free, you know, from everything that had happened to her in her life. If she could do that at 51, then I can too, and so can you. We all can, you know, no matter what age you're turning, whether you're turning 31, whether you're turning 41 or 51 or 61 or 71, we've still got time, you know, and I feel so blessed. Every night, people know that I'm a spiritual person. Every night I say my prayers, and the first three things now I've changed it. I say that I'm grateful for my relationship with my higher power, but the first three things I typically say that I'm grateful for are my life, my health, and my sobriety. And each day that I'm alive, I feel like is another chance to live my life to the best of my ability. And I feel so blessed for that. I really, really do. And I'm so incredibly grateful for it, you know. And I'm really grateful this year for my mom inspiring me. So many years ago, you know, 1995, she would have never had any idea at 51 years old in 1995, her getting sober. Flash forward to all these years later, you know, of me turning 51. That would be the inspiration that I would need to live the best life that I could possibly have. And I'm gonna do it. I am doing it. I love life. And I am so grateful. I feel so grateful for everything that I have, all the people in my life, you guys, the ability to make YouTube videos, and another year around the sun. And I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.